starting with mobile application development in level 300, HND level 300. So we are blessed to be part of the first batch. And this course was introduced because to encourage students to do projects based on using mobile application. We noticed a trend from some few years back, 3, 4 years back, that students were now um, developing mobile apps as their project, okay, at the HND level. So there was a need to introduce it to the curriculum at a level where students can still understand whatever they are doing and also use them to develop their final year projects. Okay, so I believe this is a good platform for you to learn some of these concepts, and that would aid you to develop um, good applications that can be sustained over a period of time. All right, so let's move straight into action. Unfortunately, last week, because we were preparing for the congregation, we couldn't meet. So this will be our first meeting. And so let's go through the course outline. So the course is mobile application development. The main platform we are going to use is Flutter, but emphasis will be on Flutterflow. We are using Flutterflow because this same program or this same course you would see in your top up, which will be in a year time. So with that one, it's also, since I also teach that course, it's based on Flutter. Okay, so the idea is that at this level, we use Flutterflow so that um, you gain that interest in the course. Okay, so Flutterflow deals with just the coding is not extensive. Okay, like when you are doing Flutter itself. Okay, so a lot of the drag and drop features to make things easy for you to enjoy the course. Okay, so that at the top up level, when we are doing the actual coding, at least you have that background, you have that knowledge or that idea in the course before we start the actual coding. Okay. All right, so let's look at the course description. So this course will introduce you to mobile application development using Flutterflow. Flutterflow is a low-code platform for building cross-platform mobile application. Okay, so when we say cross-platform mobile application, we are talking about application that can run on both the Android iOS and the Android OS and then the iOS, that's the Apple devices. And so these are based on Flutter codes. Now, Flutter code or Flutter is actually a framework. Okay, so it's not like a programming language. It is just a framework. Now, the programming language for that framework is called the DART programming language, DART. That's programming language. It is a bit similar to the Java programs we write. looking at the syntax, it's a bit similar. So if we've done Java for 2 years, Java 1 and 2, and you know that syntax. So seeing that code, okay, it's not like you're learning a new code altogether with new syntax and structures, but it's just the same concept, the same understanding. Okay, the difference is not much. So we might see some of those codes and structures as we move along. Then students would also learn to design, develop, and deploy fully functional application, okay, without extensive coding, and gain the knowledge in the use of UIs, UX design, okay, file-based integration, API connectivity, and also how to deploy your app or publish your app. Okay, so there will be hands-on projects, and also students would have to create some real-world application under the practices and practices for performance optimization and scalability. Okay, so basically that's a description to the course. Now the objectives is for you to understand Flutterflow fundamentals and the role it plays in mobile application development. Then you also design and build responsive user interfaces using Flutterflow, and then um, using Flutterflow's drag and drop tools, and then also integrate backend services such as the Firebase to create a platform to uh, store your data, and also a REST API for dynamic data handling. Okay. And then finally, you should be able to deploy and publish your application on Android, iOS, and also web platform. Okay, because whatever you are going to develop will be cross-platform um, application, mobile application. Okay. So let's go through the content quickly. Um, so um, the content week 1, we look at introduction to Flutter, and mobile application development, um, user interface design basics. We also look at navigation and navigation states management, and user interaction. User interaction, we look at data integration using Firebase. We look at user authentication. We look at state management, advanced logic, and then actions and integrations. We look at API integrations, um, animation, and some advanced UI features. And then we will look at project architecture, and then data design. Then we have our mid-semester projects. And then finally, we look at testing, debugging, and app deployment. Okay. So in all this, there'll be some there'll be some practicals, okay, demonstration and some practical approach to the entire course. You you are being encouraged to use your own laptop if you are computer science students, and your laptop is your tool, okay, to completely, to fully complete or um, carry out projects in this program. Okay, so I'll encourage you all to have your own laptop, even though we are meeting in the lab for lab sessions. It's also best to have your own laptop to run some of these applications. Okay, so for instance, week one, unfortunately, week one is gone. Today happens to be week two. So we'll just see how best we can combine week one and week two with some of these basics for you to understand before we go more into the course. And so there'll be projects alongside. There'll be projects alongside. There'll be some assignments which you are supposed to do as well. Some of the applications we develop will be simple application like applications with navigation. For instance, how you can develop a multi-page application to help you navigate. We look at the UI design, which has to do with creating a simple profile page, image, text field, and buttons. When it comes to data integration with Firebase, you can look at simple applications like Notepad, which can help you store some notes in your Firebase. When it comes to user authentication, you work around implementing how we can have a login and a sign-in screen, okay, to with Firebase authentication. Then we also have state management. Okay, so with that one, we will look at simple applications like counter applications, okay, which will make use of some logics, some advanced logics. Some of the logics we know already, like the use of conditional logic, so conditional statements and so on, okay, to update the application. Then API integration. API integration, look at how you can fetch data from a public API. For instance, if it's a weather app, how can you fetch data from the API to be able to predict the weather in a particular area? Okay, so we'll look at that as well. And then things like animation and advanced UI. For instance, you want to add animation to our application. Let's say you are developing an e-commerce or a shopping application where you need to add item to cart. Okay, so we'll look at some of those examples. Now, the mid-semester will be practical. Okay, so we are going to come up with groups. I think we have some groups from Java 2. Class reps, do we?
Yes, sir. No, sir.
Okay, so I'll stick to the class reps on that, and we'll see how best we can work in groups. So the mid-semester exams, you'll be given a project, hopefully before you go for the Christmas break. I'm sure that will be by week 4. That project will be ready. So we work on it until week 10. It's going to be a loaded project. So you work on it, and part of that project will also be used in your exams as your score in exams. So we are going to work on it till week 10. By week 10, you submit and present your project. Okay, so each group, the projects will vary based on groups. So if we have, let's say, about 50 groups, okay, we can have about 10 projects with 5 groups working on the same topic. Okay, so that will be the mid-semester exams. There will be marks scored for groups, and there will be marks that will be scored as individuals, your participation in the group and all that. But your final exams will be written. And your final exams is going to be a written exams where you have some multiple choice questions um, together with some written aspect. So please take note of that. Like I said, some of the marks from the project work, especially the individual mark, will be added to the portion of the exam score. Okay, will be added. So please take note of that as well. Okay. Now, with in terms of class assignment, like I said, there will be some projects we'll be doing along the line of some of the topics we'll look at. Okay, some of which we might not have enough time to complete in class. Okay, so it will be the responsibility of that group to complete it and submit before or at our next meeting. Okay, there are times we might start the work and then if let's say it's a 3 hours course, or yes, a 3 hours course, I believe 3 hours. So if we do like 1 hour, 30 minutes or 2 hours, we are given the next hour, which is left to complete the work as a group. And then you submit it before you leave. Okay, so we are going to explore all these options as we go on. Then also there will be some quizzes, at least 2 quizzes on the LMS. Okay, so the quiz on the LMS, we are going to use that as well. So please register your programs early enough, okay, so that you have access to the quiz on the LMS. All right. So the course outline will have some reading list. We'll have some reading list. Okay. And I'm also trying my best to put together some handouts for you. Okay, with the code, because the new course is taking a bit of time, since we have to make sure the codes are ready, are running and working well before, or the applications are working well before we add it to the document to be created. Okay, so I'm hoping that before the Christmas break, the handouts should be ready for you. All right. Any question, anything before we look at the first content, our fourth outline? Any question? Any expectations you have in this course? Hello.
Hello, sir.
Yeah.
Hello, sir.
So I'm waiting for you guys. So any expectation, anything you want to say, or something from last semester? All right. So let's move straight into the course. So we want to look at introduction to Flutter and mobile app development and Flutterflow. Flutter and Flutterflow. So um, all right. So mobile applications or mobile phones have been with us for a while now. Um, and mobile phones, lately we use smartphones. And some of the phones now have AI features that are making it even smarter and so on. And these phones do not, or these phones have operating system on them. Um, there are two known operating systems that we know, most used ones. You know of the Android and then the iOS operating system. Some years back, Windows also started with their Lumia phones, with the Windows operating system running on the mobile devices, but they couldn't sustain it and it's faded out quickly. But Android and iOS have still been there. The other phones which have other operating systems, but not really um, patronized like the way we know of the Android and iOS. Okay, so this operating systems on these mobile devices, they cannot just work without the need for applications or mobile applications to run on them. Okay, so some of these applications pass across uh, various um, user services. Okay, so it can be banking application, social network or social media related application, retail application, education application, and a whole lot of them. Okay, if we take banking application, you can tell that almost every bank in Ghana has a mobile application that it runs, it uses various services with the application, whereby you don't even need to go to the bank. Sometimes you just use those services on their applications to perform transactions. And social media platforms, X, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, uh, Snapchat, a whole lot of platforms, social media platforms, Telegram, and so on. Okay, these are all mobile-based applications, retail application, uh, I'm sure maybe Jumia app, a whole lot of this platform, educational application. You want to learn a language, Duolingo, a whole lot of them. Okay. So these applications run on the operating systems. And initially, or some over a decade, or yes, over a decade ago, the Android applications started. The applications that were running on Android OS. So when it started, some of us used Eclipse and NetBeans, which were Android-based platforms for developing this mobile application. I quite remember my final year project work, somewhere 2020, 2012, 2020, 2013. I had to develop a mobile application, uh, an Android mobile application where we didn't have what we call the Android Studio, which is now available. Okay, we didn't have such platform. So what we had to do is we had to download the SDK, okay, just like we do with our Java application. We add the JDK. Okay, so we have to download the SDK file and then load it on Eclipse or NetBeans. Okay, that time those were the two main platforms that we knew writing Java program. So we load in the SDK and then you can now develop your Android application. Then somewhere in the year 2013, 2014, and Google introduced the Android Studio, okay, which was a platform solely for developing Android application. Now, this Android application were typically based on two programming languages. Okay, it mainly was based on Java. Okay, that's how come the platforms that were available back then, you could use the SDK on them to develop your mobile application. And even now, it still does the same. For instance, IntelliJ, you can use IntelliJ to develop your Android application. IntelliJ is a program we've been using for some time now, since level 100. Okay, so for instance, if I want to develop an application, okay, an Android application, you can see from here, once I select Android, it requests for me to add an SDK, okay, which is something you you download separately. That's the, I think, let's search Android SDK. So the SDK will give you the various versions, okay, or there are various versions of the SDK, just like we saw with the JDK anytime we are developing our applications. So there are various versions, okay, that you download and then you sign in with. Okay, then this will give you your blank interface or template that you can pick from to develop your mobile application. Okay, so that was how mobile application development actually started. Okay, so there wasn't a direct, or there wasn't this one application or platform that you use. Okay, it started based on the Android programming language. So the SDK will be uploaded into any, or will be installed on any of the IDEs that use the IDEs on which you can run your Java program. Okay. Then there was also the Kotlin programming language, which is also a bit similar to Java. Okay, so it was also used to develop the Android application. Then with iOS, it was based on the Objective-C or Swift language. Okay, back then that was platform that was used to develop this language. Okay, so we call these respective platforms the native development platform. Okay, native, native in the sense that um, when you are developing your Android application, it was only Java language or Kotlin language. Okay, when you are developing your iOS application, it was either Swift or Objective-C. Okay, so those were the native development platform or languages that were available. Now, this particular approach offers best performance and deep access to the device features. Okay, so um, if for instance I'm building iOS application and I'm building Android application and I'm using Java, what happens is that it offers best performance and then gives some direct access to the device's features. Okay. Um, that was one advantage when it comes to the native application development. Okay. But now there's been a major improvement in the sense that instead of, so that's the one limitation was that if I develop my Android application, put it on the Play Store, it's only available to Android users. Okay, so what happened to people who use iOS or the Apple devices or phones? They don't have access to that application you develop. It might be useful to Android users, but those on iOS don't have access to it. Okay, so then there has to be a platform, okay, or there was a need for a platform which we call the cross-platform development, which could help you write one code, okay, or use one shared code platform, which can run on multiple platforms, okay, using a framework or via a framework. Okay, so cross-platform development basically means that you use one shared code base that runs on multiple platforms. So you are going to write out one code. Take one language, write the code. Now that code will now, based on a framework, it can run on multiple platforms. It can run on iOS. It can also run on your Android device. Okay? Rather than having to write the code in Android using your Java, then now you have to take that code again, write it all over again, or uh, 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 translate it into maybe Swift or Objective-C, and then run it on your iOS. Okay, that's a long way. In fact, that was actually how I learned how to develop mobile application. So it all started when back in the university, I think level 100 or 200, a friend of mine, a course mate of mine started, he was good in VB.net. So he used it to develop an application and was selling that application on campus. He was making good money. So I remember in my hostel, I was his rep. So I had access to the application and anyone was to help students calculate their GPA and perform other functionalities. And it was a desktop application. So what I did was he advertised it, had posters in every hall, because at that time the university's platform, student portal, in our case it would be iCampus. Okay, they didn't, when you check your scholastic results, you don't see your GPA over it. Okay, you don't see your GPA. So he developed that application. So what we did was he had reps at various hall who, when they need the application, we install it on their device for them. They pay, and then we install it for them. We don't give them the executable file to them, but he had it on a pen drive for us. They come, we connect, install, they pay, and then they can now do their check their GPA, compute their GPA and CGPA, and perform other features. But it was a desktop application, so you only needed your laptop to be able to run it. So just like what we did in Java 2, okay, it was a similar approach. Okay, so this guy wanted to use this application as his final year project work, but the department didn't allow it because he had made money from it. I think since level 200 or level 300, he had made money from it. It was popular across on the campus by that time. So I had also started learning mobile application development during my vacation. So that's like you guys are in level 300 now, final year now. So during the internship period, I used that opportunity to start learning mobile application development because I was thinking, what will I do as my final year project work? There were ideas there, but not, there were just a few people who were interested in mobile application development at that time. So it was just a few people, and those of us who subscribed to that vacation training were just a few. So I was thinking through my project work, and I got an idea. This friend of mine who is not, they are not allowing him to use the desktop application to he developed as his project work. Why not me get his concept, his logic, okay, how he was able to use VB.NET to develop that um, GPA calculator. Why not use that logic, that concept, to convert it into Android using my knowledge in Java to develop an Android mobile application? So I sold that idea to my supervisor. He gave me the go ahead. Okay, so it was now up to me to meet this friend. And in fact, it was actually my classmate in SHS. So he gave me his logic, he gave me the concept, the logic, how he did everything. And with the little knowledge I had in Java and the fact that I started learning mobile application development, I used that logic to develop the application. Okay. And it worked well. It was difficult because back then you didn't have a lot of people developing mobile applications. There wasn't much online for you to learn, where in our case now there's a lot of resources on YouTube, okay, websites are available. There are communities you can join to learn a lot. There's GitHub and so on that you can go to learn a lot. Okay, but we still had to pull through, did the little we could do to get the project done, presented it. Okay, so what I'm trying to say is that the cross-platform development, okay, is just that one time code or one shared code which can run on multiple platforms. Okay, so that even that code, if you look at the course outline, I said you can even deploy it as web applications. Okay, so this cross platforms gives you that needed um, or helps you to run it on multiple platforms via the use of frameworks. What are some of these frameworks? One of them is Flutter. Okay, so Flutter is one of the frameworks for running your application on multiple platforms. Okay. Then another framework is Native. React Native. React Native is also a framework used to develop mobile applications, okay, for developing applications with React, okay, to native platforms. And it's mainly best, or it uses what we call it uses the JavaScript libraries for building the user interfaces. Okay. So basically, these two platforms, okay, or frameworks, let me put them that way, were used. Then there's also another framework. It's known as Xamarin. Okay, Xamarin framework. Let me type them here so that you can see. So we mentioned Flutter, then React. There's React Native, okay, and there's also Xamarin. Okay. So Xamarin is developed using C Sharp. C Sharp and .NET. Now, if I say C Sharp and .NET, what comes to mind? Anyone? C Sharp and .NET, what comes to mind?
Say desktop application.
Okay. What else? Anyone? Anyone? Oh, I'm waiting. Oh. If you hear C Sharp, you hear .NET, what comes to mind? Especially when you hear .NET. Yes,
Don't
who's
forget.
speaking?
Like building high performance softwares or something.
Okay. But anytime you hear .NET, one thing that comes to mind is Windows. Okay, Windows, Microsoft Windows application. It's Windows that uses .NET, .NET Frame. We learned this from last semester, VB.NET. Okay, so Xamarin is Windows, it's Microsoft owned framework. Okay, and it's used to develop native applications for iOS, Android, and then Windows. Okay, so these are the three main cross-platform frameworks that are available, okay, for us to use. The three main ones, unless there's another one, maybe I don't know, but these are the three that I know. Okay, so we are using Flutter. Okay, this we are going to focus on Flutter. We can't do all of them. We just have to choose one and then use it. They all have their advantages and disadvantages. Okay, but we are choosing Flutter mainly because our how do I put it? Our study area or programming language over the period of time. Okay, one of the languages that we spend, in fact, 1 year, okay, 1 year, 1 full year, first semester, second semester level 100, and level 200 first semester is Java. So we spend like a year doing Java. And because that programming language is similar to Java, okay, so it's best to flow in that line to be able to understand whatever we are doing, okay, within that context of um, application development. Okay, so it's not like it's anything new, any other new concept. Okay. So that's the main reason why we're going for the Flutter framework, okay, instead of the Xamarin or the React Native. Okay. But those of you who are also good with JavaScript, um, can also look at the React Native approach within that framework as well, most especially when it comes to the UIs of the applications. All right. So that said, this cross-platform frameworks are attractive when the app must launch quickly on both iOS and Android. Okay. The UI or the app's UI and features can be mostly the same across the platform. Okay, it can be mostly the same. So for instance, if I'm using an Android phone or I put an Android phone and an iPhone side by side, okay, an iPhone and an Android phone side by side, you realize that if maybe I have one same application, maybe let's take a bank application, let's say a GCB bank application, the look and feel of the application of GCB bank will be similar to on Android will be similar to that of iOS. The difference will just be a little, not much difference. Okay, mainly because maybe the iOS uses certain the look of the interface is what might just change the application. Okay, but in terms of functionality and most of the features, okay, are mostly the same across the platform. So that's one thing about this platform. And all right, so let's talk briefly about Flutter. Let's talk briefly about Flutter. I have a slide from the pop-up class. I'm trying to look for it so that we can use that. All right, so let's talk about Flutter briefly. and then we'll also talk about UX, UI design. So, Flutter framework. So please take note, Flutter is not a mobile application. It is a framework. Sorry, it's not a programming language. Okay, it's a framework. So please take note of that. And so we've talked about developing mobile application on cross-platform using Android provides a native framework based on Java. iOS provides native framework based on Objective-C. Okay. Then to help overcome complexity, okay, there is a need for these frameworks, and Flutter gives you that ability to do that. Flutter is simple. It is a high performance framework based on that language. Okay, it is based on that language. It provides high performance by rendering the UI directly in the operating system's canvas. Okay, so this is what I was talking about. Okay, directly on the operating system's canvas. Okay, rather than through the native framework. Now, Flutter also offers ready-to-use widgets and to create modern application. Okay, and that is one of the features we are going to explore a lot. Okay, majority of the work we are going to do with Flutterflow will be based on the use of widgets. Now, these widgets are, we have in Flutterflow, there's the palette, okay, which we are going to use together with the other widget features. Okay. Now, these widgets are optimized for mobile environments and designing the application using widgets. It's simple as designing with HTML. Now, Flutter application itself is a widget. Now, this widget also supports animation, they support navigation, they support gestures, and so on. The application logic is based on reactive programming. The widget may optionally have a state. By changing the state of a widget, Flutter automatically compare the widget states, whether it's old or new, and then you render the widget with only the necessary change instead of rendering the whole widget. So Flutter framework offers these features to develop it. One of the features is modern and reactive framework. It uses the Dart programming language. The person using the Samsung phone, please rename yourself and stop writing on the screen. The person with the name is Samsung. Rename yourself and stop writing on the screen. Undo your writings on the screen. So Flutter framework uses that programming language, which is very easy to learn. Like I said, it's similar to what we know in Java. It helps with the fast development. It's beautiful and fluid, has beautiful and fluid user interface. It has huge collection or catalog of widgets available for different forms of applications you want to develop. And it runs the same UI for multiple platforms, mostly the same UI. Okay, and then has a high performance as well. Now, given any mobile application, there are some features that you see. Okay. In Flutter, we have the scaffold. Okay, so the scaffold basically shows the main functionality of your application. Okay. There's also the app bar. The app bar usually will have the title, have the leading, have action, okay, um, probably if there's an icon and all that, you put it there. It also has the theme to the application. Then you can have text in this form. You can have rich text. So rich text is where you add um, features to your text, make it bold, italics, change the color, and so on. Then we have the safe area. So safe area looks like this. Okay. So this is the one without a safe area, and this one has a safe area. Okay. So as you can see, then mostly in Flutter application development, one of the things you need to take note of is that developments of application are built, the application are built or the widgets are developed based on what we call a container. Okay, so there are times you can use a container and then you can also develop your application based on the use of rows and columns. Okay, rows and columns. So as we can see here, your arrangement of your widgets can be in terms of columns. So if it's columns, they are done vertically. So this is one, this is the other. If they are rows, you see them arranged horizontally. Okay. So you arrange your widget in that order. It's like, let's say you are developing an application that is going to use that's showing a list of items. Okay, so maybe it's going to show an item. The item is here. Then the item, the name of the item. Then there's a description down here. The item description. And then we have the price of the item. So we are developing this in a form of what? Column, okay, vertically. Then you have, so this is item one, you can have item two here, item three in that order. So this is showing you a list of items. Someone can take that same application and in terms of arranging in the column form, the person goes with the row, which is more horizontal. So he takes the item, the image, then the name is showing here. Okay, then it has a description, or sometimes you don't even see the description unless you hover your mouse over the item and then you see the description and the price. Okay, so a lot of this application we use have, you see them arranged the widgets in this form, and you can scroll left or you can scroll right, okay, to change the various widgets with the item. Are you all with me?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Then there are also buttons. Okay, so there are various buttons the default button, we have the elevated button, we have the um, uh, buttons with borders and so on. And so you see all those properties or features when we get into the application proper. So properly. So there are some advantages when you use Flats. So it comes with beautiful and customizable widgets for high performance and outstanding mobile application. It fulfills all custom needs and requirements. Okay. Now, Flutter offers more advantages in the sense that the use of the Dart language has a large repository of software packages and lets you extend the capabilities of your software. Developers need to write just a single code for both application that's Android and iOS. And then Flutter needs lesser testing because its single code base is sufficient to write automated test one for both platforms. Now it also offers simplicity that is good for fast development of application, its customization capacities and extend the ability makes it even more powerful. Now, developers have full control of the widget and their layout, and then it offers great developer tools with amazing hot reload. Okay. So the hot reload basically means that if you are running an application, let's say, sorry, let's say this is your let's say this your let's say this is your code, your source code. And then this is your emulator. Now, emulator in mobile application development, if you say emulator basically is the interface, okay, or a testing tool, let me put it that way, on which you can run the app before you actually publish it or transfer it to a mobile device. In fact, you can even use your phone, your Android phone or iOS phone as an emulator, as a live emulator. Okay. So this is your phone, the buttons and things are shown here. Okay. So the hot reload simply means that I've written a code. Okay, I ran the code and then I've seen my interface. Now the hot reload, what it does is, let's say I make a little change to the code. So instead of the thing being a rectangle, I want it to be a square. So I quickly modify that code to make it look like a square. The hot reload will just change that quickly in the emulator. I don't need to run the code all over again. Okay, so the hot reload feature will just change it. Immediately I perform that change in the source code. Quickly, the hot reload will change the image to a square. Okay, I don't need to run the entire code all over again. So those feature makes it fun. So whilst you are coding, you are seeing the updates being done immediately. I don't need to finish the code before I can now run it and see the entire mobile application I'm developing. As you are moving along, the use of the hot reload gives you updates, okay, whilst you are developing your application. All right, so some disadvantages. There are some few drawbacks. One of which is that it's a Dutch language, so you may need to learn it. In our case, we will not be doing much of the extensive coding. Okay, so at this level, I don't think that would really be a problem. Then also the modern frameworks try to use logic and UI. So you need to understand some of this UI and the logic. And the Flutter framework is another, Flutter is another framework to create mobile application, and developers are having hard time in choosing the right development tools in hugely populated segments. So that's also one disadvantage. And all right, so I'll skip these steps for later because it's not really into what we are doing at this stage. Okay. But we are going to use this tool. Let me just put it here for you to see. Okay. So we'll be using this tool. It's the Flutterflow application. Let me just show you how you can download it. So I'll encourage you, especially those with your laptops. Okay, so you go to Flutterflow, or even if you Google it, the first option you'll see flutterflow.io. When you go there, you can sign in with your Gmail accounts and then download the application. Okay. So when you sign in, it will lead you to the download, and then you can have it downloaded. Or you can even search download Flutterflow. So for Windows or whichever one, or desktop version. So once you do that, whichever operating system you are using, you just download it, and that will give you an executable file. Okay. That's a Flutterflow. And then when you install it, it will require you to sign in. And when you sign in, you have this interface as I have here. Okay, so next week we'll go into this interface and start with some basic development, application development. But we are going to look at more of the UX, the basic UI designs. Okay. All right. Any question? Any questions? Yes, Emmanuel. Hello.
Sir, please, can you hear- Hello.
Yes, Emmanuel, we can hear you now.
Yeah, sir, please. Um, when you were reading the advantages
Yeah.
of Flutter,
Yes.
I saw an exception in one of the points saying that Flutter may not be extended into uh, new operating system, something like that. Can you please elaborate more on that? Is it that in the near future there are going to be um, operating systems that will not support Flutter or something? I don't really understand.
So it's saying that Flutter, not, it didn't say not. It said it may be extended to other platforms.
Oh, okay.
Let me go back to the slide. Yeah.
Yeah, so please, I have a question.
Yeah. So here, so Flutter may be extended to other platforms as well in future.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
I didn't see it, so that's why I was asking.
All right.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. You're welcome. Portrait.
Yeah, good evening, sir.
Yes. Good evening.
Yeah, sir, please I wanted to ask if the Flutterflow is a free application or you need to use the education version.
It's free, but you need to sign in. I think it's mostly internet based, so you need to sign in. I'm trying my best to get the lab technicians to install it on the in the labs. Okay, so that will be easy to use when we come.
Okay, okay.
Yeah.
Because I was seeing it, I was seeing if you want to, you can equally use your student's mail to claim a 1 year free subscription.
Yeah, that option is also there.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, you're welcome. Osborne.
Yeah, sir, please, I want to ask one question. See, sir, please, when you are developing with, let's say, React or React Native, and then you are compiling your application for Android, you can use your not Windows laptop to do it. But then when it gets to iOS, unless you get a MacBook or an Apple laptop before you can do that, I want to ask if it's the same with Flutter.
No, it's not. So it's Flutter. You can run your code on Windows and both code, but the only thing is that if I'm using, that's why there's an emulator. So if I using an emulator, I choose the emulator I want to use. Okay, so if for instance, the emulator I'm choosing is an iPhone emulator, then you want to see how your application will run on an iPhone. If the emulator I'm choosing is web-based, you see how it will look on a web-based. The emulator I'm using is Android. You see how it looks on Android. Okay, so you don't need to actually be on a MacBook to see how the Android version, the iOS version will look like.
Yeah, so please, my question is, when it comes to the bundling, like bundling it into an iOS application, yes, sometimes you need a MacBook, but I don't know for Flutter whether it works that way.
No, that I don't know. I have used it more with iPhone and iOS, but with iPhones, I don't think so far. I don't think it's given that issue. It's straightforward. Once the emulator is able to pick it, it just displays. Yes, Lucy. Lucy, your hand is up.
Yes, sir, please, can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you now.
Sir, please, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Yes, sir, please, I'd like to ask about the advantages of the platform. So I would like to ask you, in case we are to write the advantages of Flutterflow, can we write the same advantages of the Flutter for the Flutterflow, or there are another advantages of Flutterflow?
I'm not getting your question well. You are saying with what
The-
you saw in the slide,
Yes, yes,
are you
the
supposed to
advantages
write
of
that,
Flutter.
or there are other ones you need to write? Is that the question?
Yes, yes, please. So, yeah.
Or there are more to that? Like I said, I'm preparing your document, so you see all those things listed in there. What I use today is what the slide I teach the top up students with. So this is not your actual document. But there are more to that. These are just a few. Are you okay? All right. Okay, so in the absence of any